Matt, would you like to tell us a little something about Justin Fields? Or I could tell you a little something about Justin Fields.
Well, I know he's 6'3". He's 228 pounds. He obviously started his career there at Georgia, transferred to Ohio State in 2019, and kind of exploded onto the scene. In his first year there, he threw for over 3,000 yards, 41 touchdowns against only 3 interceptions, and 484 yards rushing on top of all those totals. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that, again, he doesn't have a quick release, I guess, for to say, but he is a very accurate quarterback. And you're going to hear Justin Fields' name, you're going to think mobility too, because he can move with the football. Yep. I think his mobility lines up with a little bit more of like a Dak Prescott kind of mobility kind of quarterback.
I think overall that's just a great comp for him, period. I think he reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott.
Good arm, is accurate, way down, has really good accuracy downfield. Somebody who, again, when we're talking about Ohio State's offense, it's a quarterback-friendly offense, right? And he's got some really good weapons there as well. We saw versus Clemson, he's a very tough player. He got banged up there pretty good, still came in there, was a very strong player. And he got better in 2020 than he was in 2019. Because going to 2019, when we were talking prospects, a lot of people were talking Justin Fields like he's going to be the number 2 quarterback for sure behind Lawrence. And I was like, as an Ohio State fan that watched all the games, I was like, I don't know, man. Like when I look at Justin Fields at the time, like when you mentioned, like he locks it, like in 2019 tape, like he would lock in as receiver, and that was it. His eyes were just locked in.
And to be fair, it worked. I mean, like he didn't need to.
41 touchdowns.
But at Ohio State, it works at Ohio State. Exactly. It doesn't work in the NFL.
It does not.
And that was my concern. Like as an Ohio State fan, I'm happy, but I wasn't looking at it like that. I was like, come on, dude. If you're going to be the number 2 prospect, you got to get better. And then 2020 came along, and it was night and day. Like he started to use his eyes a little bit better, and it really shifted. His downfield ball was a lot prettier. This is a guy who's got a real nice arm, right? You can get to put the ball all over the field, and he's accurate. He's accurate on the move as well. But again, when he's in the pocket, this is somebody who needs he needs to like tighten everything up a little bit, right? Like it just needs to tighten everything up. There's a lot like between his footwork, getting the ball out on time. He needs to clean things up here.
The biggest thing that I noticed was when everything is right, his footwork is right, he's throwing an accurate ball. But when he gets offbeat or maybe he gets a little bit lazy and he's looking flat-footed, that's when I see passes that are sailing high, that the errant throws that you're just like that is not going to be, that's not going to cut it at the next level. He's got to clean all this stuff up. And I think it starts with his feet, especially for him. I've noticed most of his bad throws, they're either off balance or he's just flat footed. And so I think he needs to work on his drops. He needs to, you see the quarterbacks, they do the hitches. They're bouncing back there. They're on the balls of their feet because they're ready to move and they're ready to kind of snap it off at any point. Where I saw Justin Fields just kind of take a couple of lazy steps back, because they're operating mostly out of the shotgun, so there's not a lot of drops that you like traditional drops that you would take, if you're going under center. So he just kind of takes a step back and stands there, and I hate seeing a quarterback do that. It never seems to work out great for him, and it doesn't put him in position to address anything that's headed at him. It leaves you flat-footed and it leaves you in a kind of a lurch.
It is interesting because when we're talking about an athletic profile, I mean, he is a fantastic athlete. Mm-hmm. We're talking about one of the best athletes at the quarterback position in this draft. I think the only one I'd say would maybe be a little bit better is the next guy we're going to talk about. But I mean,
Zach Wilson.
No.
Oh, wait, we already talked about it.
We already got it. We already got to him.
But it's interesting because he definitely does have a passer mentality, because for as fantastic as a runner as he is, outside of designed runs, he didn't actually take off a ton.
Oh no, he looks downfield.
He looks down. He's looking to make plays, and it's similar to what Deshaun Watson. He had that problem as well coming out of Clemson, where he was wanting to make that big play downfield. And to his credit, most of the time it worked. Same thing with Deshaun Watson at Clemson. Most of the time, he had a good enough offensive line. He has a good enough arm. He has enough accuracy that will work. He is going to have to speed everything up at the next level. And I think that's the biggest thing, is he just needs to go a tick faster. And I think he will be able to do that. It's not as much can he or can't he. It's just we just haven't seen it yet. So it's not like he can't do it. We just haven't necessarily seen him get to that point yet. You get him with a good offensive coordinator, a good offensive mind, all of the raw tools, all of the raw ability, the accuracy, like all of those things are there. I think he just needs to speed everything up a little bit, and he has to utilize one of his best assets, which it's funny because typically with somebody as athletic as him, it's usually the other way. Like, I'd like to see him like hang in there in the pocket more and look to throw the ball downfield more. For him, it's the opposite. Like, utilize some of that a little more often. Like, utilize your ability to be able to get on the move. But we gushed over Trevor Lawrence. This is a guy that has been in the same breath as Trevor Lawrence since high school. I mean, they were competing for the top spot at one point. Justin Fields had it. Then Trevor Lawrence regained it coming out of high school. 2 top prospects going in.
Within 20, they lived 20 miles.
Both from Georgia. Yeah, I mean, same kind of thing. Then they got the opportunity to play each other in college. Both guys won one of the duels. I mean, there's a lot. It's interesting how far Justin Fields has fallen in people's minds, because I think part of it is we've always known it's going to be Trevor Lawrence as the top guy. Like, that's kind of, it just has been since he started at Clemson.
Yep.
We've just always known it's going to be that guy. And then the hype with Zach Wilson, which is deserved. The hype with Zach Wilson, I think, has kind of pushed Justin Fields down in people's minds a little bit. And I think we're now at the point where he's being a little bit undervalued. And I think there's something about that intrigues me, because I think we might be able to buy into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I have him as my locked in, like I said, 1-3 in Superflex leagues. And it's why I like Zach Wilson a little bit more, just because he's more polished than Justin Fields. And you're right, he just needs to be coached up a little bit more. And I like the idea of how you said, like, it'd be nice to see him run a little bit more, because he does want to just stay down there and make the pass and be known as a pocket passer. And sometimes, like Matt said, it's when he gets blitzed, it's like where things get sloppy with him as well, where all of a sudden he's facing some pressure. It's like everything just becomes like a blur behind the line of scrimmage from him. Like, all of a sudden he doesn't know where his receivers are and everything. He doesn't know where to go with the football. And that's where he makes some bad decisions sometimes. And lucky playing at a place like Ohio State, that doesn't happen a ton. But we did see it happen in situations versus big games where he had some trouble seeing the field. He does need to clean up his footwork a little bit there as well. But overall, this is a very good prospect who, at the same time, like any quarterback could be, I feel like he needs like a year or two at least to really polish up his game. But if he does, just like you mentioned, like a Dak Prescott comp, he could be a top tier NFL quarterback that really gets you some good dynasty points, because he's giving you 550 rushing yards per year as well. And he gets a couple good receivers that he gets throw the ball downfield to, because he's got that good accuracy as well. I think Justin Fields is a great dynasty prospect, just not on the same tier for me right now as Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence from a fantasy football outlook, right? And somebody that I feel confident in that is more of a sure thing. Is he a great prospect? For sure. Do I believe he's going to be a good NFL quarterback? I absolutely do. I believe in Justin Fields 100%. I just believe in these other guys just a little bit more. But I believe him enough where I'd still take him ahead of Jamar Chase and Najee Harris in a Superflex tight end premium league. It's just he's got some things to work on and clean up, where the other guys I feel don't have to clean up and work on.
And obviously, I've watched a lot of Buckeyes games just throughout the past few years, because we are Buckeyes fans. So I pointedly went right to some of his worst games to watch. You know what I mean? I went to Indiana, where he threw 3 interceptions. I went to Northwestern, where he had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And then I went to Clemson, where he had an interception and 6 touchdowns. I wanted to at least have a good taste in my mouth at the end, but I wanted to see what was going wrong in those games. And that's where I kind of came up with the analysis with his footwork. He just seemed lazy in some of the throws. And obviously, you mentioned the pressure. He also made a couple of really bad decisions with pressure in his face. I think just trying to make a play, but there's a time to try to chuck the ball downfield, and there's a time to just take a sack. And sometimes when a guy's wrapped around your chest, it's time to just take a sack instead of trying to throw a ball down, 10 yards down the field, which is really 10 yards is really to the line of scrimmage at that point. Just take the sack, move on to the net. You have enough skill players and you're a talented enough offense that you can overcome that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be making those kind of bad mistakes.
Indiana blitzed him a ton in that game, and like there'd be stuff there in the middle of the field, he just wouldn't even see it. You know what I mean? It's like it's not there for him. And
sure.
It's like, what went wrong? Like you said, what went wrong there? I'm not in between his ears there as well, but it's like, okay, what's going on? Where Zach Wilson would do the opposite. He'd roll out, change his arm angle, get the ball, and be accurate with the ball. And Justin Fields has the ability to do all of that. You know, like the talent's there, you could see it. It's just not refined yet because he's very accurate with the football too. Mm-hmm. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in this draft class, really.
Yep.
And that's where I could see him being so successful. That's one concern that you can't fix. Like everything else that he has going on could be fixed at the NFL. Again, if he lands on the Panthers with Joe Brady and Matt Rule, that's a beautiful pairing, right? Like this kid could be coached up well because he has the arm and he has the accuracy. And that's the most important thing. Right. Obviously, you want the smarts as well. But the most important thing you want is, I don't care that they have a rocket arm or anything. I want to be accurate with the football and be able to put the ball on all three levels. And he has that ability.
And the good news about a player like him, you know, we mentioned it with Zach Wilson, like this is another guy that is a gunslinger. Like he's going to stand in there to make the big play. It's much easier to rein some of those guys back than saying like, okay, now I want you to be aggressive, Teddy Bridgewater. Like I want you to, you know,
come on,
and I knew you were ready for that one,
Matt.
Come on. You know, it's much easier to try to rein him in than say like, okay, now I need you to like be more than you've been, you know. So I would much rather see that than the other way.
And what's nice we offers in a run game as well is because this is a guy like when you get his hands on him, he's not an easy guy to bring down.
No,
right?
not
Like
at all.
You see him when you play.
He's quick.
Yeah, he's very behind the line of scrimmage where he'd stay by there. There's a lot of guys getting arms on Justin Fields, and he wouldn't go down. He would stay up and still make a play, which is a great thing to see. Where sometimes you see some of these quarterbacks and they get a pinky on them or a blade of grass and they're falling over. Justin Fields excelled in that area, right? Like he could be on the line of scrimmage, a lot of defenders, confident, keep eyes downfield, bodies on him, but he's Big Ben-esque. You know what I mean? Where like he's staying up tall. So he does a lot of nice things.
Yep.
Good prospect.